Welcome everybody to our Wednesday webinar series, Book Widgets for Math and Science Educators. I'm Cheryl and I'm going to be your host today for our Book Widgets webinar. Just a quick review of what Book Widgets is. We are a content creation and evaluation tool. We help teachers create engaging and interactive content for their students and then help them work smarter, not harder, by assisting them with the grading, feedback, and evaluation of the student work after it has been submitted. We have a complete widget library of over 40 interactive templates that you can use to create and build content, a complete integration with most learning management systems, including Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Schoology, Moodle, Canva, and many others. So if you're using Book Widgets and you have a learning management system, let us help you integrate those two to make your work much easier. One of my favorite components of Book Widgets is the ability to monitor student progress. When we can monitor our student progress in real time, we can see our students who may need extra support and help them right away, as well as our Pop-Tarts, our students who are finishing quickly and might benefit from an extra challenge or a game. And then finally, we have our reporting dashboard. Having a robust reporting dashboard is important for us to make informed decisions about our teaching and learning and where our students are progressing along the path to proficiency. Additionally, being able to provide team leaders, administrators, and parents information about students, classes, and question types is really important for us. And finally, the ability to spend less time grading and more time doing the things that we love, working with our students, providing personalized feedback, creating content is so important, and the reporting dashboard helps us with that. In this session today, we will be together for about an hour, and I'm going to provide for you examples of widgets and questions that you can use in math and science courses. That doesn't mean that you couldn't use these question types in other courses as well, but we'll be focusing mostly on math and science courses. We will also provide examples of options that you have in Book Widgets for creating widgets that will be useful for you, as well as some integrations with other products so that your lessons can connect with perhaps some of the other products that you use in your math and science class. So we really have 5 main components of what we're going to be working on today. The largest part are the examples with our ideas that Book Widgets would like to share with you, the specific question types that we have for math and science, the options that are available as you create content in Book Widgets, as we said, those integrations that are available. And then finally, I believe that collaboration is really important. So groups that you can join, Book Widgets groups that you can join, where other educators are also creating and sharing content. I love creating content, but I also get some great ideas from other educators when they share their content with me. So I would encourage you to make sure that you participate and join in those groups. So let's dive in and discover all sorts of ways that Book Widgets activities can be used in your math and science courses. I'm going to start with our most common activity widget templates, which are the worksheet, the split worksheet, and the video quiz, our latest addition. I want to show you some examples of some really exciting things that you can do inside Book Widgets. So our first sample comes from one of our ambassadors, Samuel Caraballo, who has created a worksheet. A reminder that a worksheet is a scrolling, never-ending page of activities where you can add any of our question types. So we see here that we have embedded some Google Slides, and the students can interact with those Google Slides as they work along in the activities. So rather than having a separate link to your Google Slides, you can embed your PDF, Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, anything that you would like to embed in here. And then we have a great example of a drag and drop where students will need to drag and drop responses into the appropriate boxes. So we have those drag and drop style type questions here that our students can use, as well as a word to picture match. So we have a word to picture match. We also have word to word, audio to word, and then an embedded Kahoot activity. And this Kahoot activity can be used for homework. Kahoot has an edition where you can assign an activity for homework, or it could be a full class activity. And this is just one quick example of how you can use that integration that I'm going to be talking about later on. Kahoot is a great way that you can integrate into BookWidgets just with that embed code. At the end of our lesson, you might want to have an exit ticket. This is an example of an exit ticket that you might want to use. Our students have a worksheet with a video here that they can watch, and then that exit ticket. And you can see that we can drag and drop this to make each side as big or as small as we would like it to be. So we have those customizable options for our students. We just had a webinar on flipped instructions, so I'd like to share this worksheet activity with you where you're asking your students to work on something at home. In this example, it's a choice activity where students get to watch a quick video from TikTok. We know that our students love TikTok. And then they choose 3 of the activities that they will replicate on their own. So introducing the idea of choice into an activity, I think is really important for our learners. And so you can see in the instructions here that the teacher has indicated that they are going to watch the videos and then select 3 experiences that they will try to duplicate on their own. And they're going to send those videos back to their teacher. We oftentimes think of rubrics as only for an English language arts class, but I want to encourage you to use rubrics if you're not using them in your math and science class. In this example, we've provided the rubric for the student, and the student will use that metacognition to think about their learning and think about the process and how did they do on their lab report. They will be able to select how they feel they did on their lab report, as well as providing some information back to the teacher on how they felt about the activity and any comments that they have if there was something specific that they would like to send to the instructor. The really great thing about using rubrics is that when you receive the student rubric, you will also be able to add your rationale, your assessment of the student directly on that same rubric. So when you go to your grades and reporting, you will see the rubric has a little graduation hat for the student responses, and you can put your responses in as well so that the student can see how does their self-assessment compare to your assessment of them. And then our final worksheet that we have here focuses on UN SDG number 4, the Sustainable Development Goal, number 14, life under the water. And our students are going to be learning about life under the water by going on an adventure and exploring the coral reefs. You can see that along the way, the instructor chunks the activity and provides visual clues for the students so that they're able to take in a large amount of information, but it has stopping points here that tell them what to do and how they can integrate and use this activity. We have an embedded link here where the students will click and go out onto that link. And for me, embedding links in my BookWidgets activities are really important because it helps my students be contained. It also helps them keep track. They're not getting lost of where they need to be inside an activity. Let's continue on with a split worksheet. And this split worksheet is from a biology class focusing on the plastics problem. In this split worksheet, the teacher has embedded an infographic on the left-hand side. And I do want to remind you again that you can change the size of the split worksheet as well as changing the side of that infographic so that the students really can take a look and zoom in on this activity. You'll also notice that in this instance, the teacher has allowed a download of the activity so that if students want to download this infographic, they can do so as well. After they have taken a look at the infographic, then they're going to complete the activities based on the information that they find in the infographic. For many end-of-course assessments, students are asked to take a look at information that they might find on the web or in a book, and we want to make sure that we're practicing with them. So asking them to look at this infographic and then using the drag and drop to put the information into the correct bin is really helpful for them. You can see on this activity that the teacher has selected that the students will see the correct answer right away. So for example, the student put this as a problem. Bringing a reusable water bottle is not a problem, but a solution. So now the student can move that over. This idea of providing immediate feedback when we're reviewing, I feel is really important. You may not want this on a specific assessment type, but I love it when we're doing review activities in class. So that's our split worksheet. Here is another example from an ambassador that we have, Samuel Caraballo. And he has embedded a virtual lab on the left-hand side, as well as his questions and exactly what he wants his students to do in this activity. This is really interesting how we can include different types of information inside a split worksheet here with his field notes, his background information, and then reminding the students what he would like them to do every step along the way. And this, of course, being a split worksheet means that you will add your questions one after the other. Here is our experiment that we're running. So we have all of our koi fish. We're going to run our experiment, and then we can go home and get the rest of our information. Take a tutorial if we need to. So everything contained right inside this split worksheet. And then for our math teachers, we can use a split worksheet as well so that our students can gather information, watch information. In this example, we've used a TikTok video, and then they will complete the exercise below. Remember, with our split worksheet as well, we can maximize or minimize where we're drawing. We can also use our drawing tool, our eraser, or even text if we wanted to insert some text. We have the ability to change the size of our drawing as well as an array of colors that we can choose from. And then when we're all done, we click that submit button. So that is our worksheet and our split worksheet. One of our most often used activities outside of the worksheet and the split worksheet is the quiz. The difference between a quiz and a worksheet is one very simple thing. You'll notice here at the bottom that I have these forward and backward arrows. In the quiz, we only have one question at a time on our piece of paper. You'll remember that our split worksheet was a scrolling piece of paper that the students scroll through. In this instance, the students use the forward and backward arrows to navigate from question to question. As many of you know, I teach students who are learning English for the first time as a second or third language, and I use a quiz a lot, not because it's a quiz, but when my students see a long piece of paper, for example, a worksheet, they sometimes get that mindset that they cannot finish the activity. So sometimes I use a quiz so that they don't feel overwhelmed. Of course, in the upper right, they do have that option to see how many questions there are on the activity, as well as return to a specific question, navigate quickly from the beginning to the end without having to click through each question. I really like this activity that I've shown you here, which is the math quiz, because it has an example of every question type. So this might be something that you could use as a jumping off point for your activities as you create content. And sometimes math can be, fun. We want to change it up a little bit. And in this activity, the students have to solve a code. And when they solve the letter code, they have their math solution. So 3 plus 6 equals 9. And so they know that here they're going to put in that letter W. And this is an activity that they can complete on their own. I want to highlight for you here that we have a scratch pad, a drawing board. So if they needed to figure out what those examples were, then they have their 3 plus 6 so that they can show their work. Sometimes as a teacher, you want them to show their work. You'll also notice on this activity, we have the camera so that if students were doing their work on their own paper, they could take a picture of that and upload it here onto this worksheet. So lots of customizable components for us that you can include as you create activities with BookWidgets. Here, once the students solve the puzzle correctly, they'll find the topic for the day. So this is a great way of getting students involved prior to the lesson to say, what are we going to be studying today, making a little game out of it. Here you can see that we've done some customization on this Earth Day quiz with a different colored background. We've embedded some pictures and images to change up a little bit the way that our lesson looks. When we have those engaging images or we change the font, here we've made the font much bigger, it just changes things up for the students so that they are more engaged in that activity for the day. Here's an example where I've used the white background. So you can see that difference between that vibrant green background and the white background that we have here. I've embedded a video in this activity. You'll notice that the students are guided with a continue button. So they must watch this video and then they go on to that question. You'll also notice in this activity, our arrows here for the forward and back. That's how we know that it's our quiz. In this instance, this is an excellent example of how a teacher has included feedback in the quiz. So immediately the student receives feedback for their answer. So this is a really great way that our students can include or our students can receive feedback immediately. So when does the summer solstice start? If the student says June 21st, and then they click ready, meaning they're ready for the feedback, they receive this wonderful piece of feedback from their teacher, including a graphic. So I encourage you to check out feedback as you're creating your BookWidgets activities. They are such a time saver. And we know that providing meaningful, timely feedback is what is so important for our students. So providing them that feedback immediately as they're working through a lesson. Here's an example of a video quiz. In this video quiz, we start with some directions on this STEM activity, and then our students are going to immediately click to the video. I know that you see this arrow here, but the arrow takes the student to their question. So you want to remind the students to watch the video. And then as the students watch the video, when it comes to that cue point, that stopping point, then the next question or the next opportunity for learning will come up for them. And once again, inside our video quiz, there are lots of options and opportunities for you to customize the video quiz. So whether or not the students will be able to navigate forward or backward, whether the students will be able to replay that video. As you can see here, I'm gliding through the video. You can set it up so that the students must watch the video on their own before they get to that question. And in this instance, the teacher has encouraged the students to take pictures of their cotton ball launcher along the way so that the educator has an opportunity to see each student's activity. We know that with our students, we have a lot of students in class, and we don't want to take that time perhaps during our class time. So being able for me to watch their, to look at their pictures in my grading time really is a wonderful time saver for me as well. Let's take a look at a physics activity here. So once again, we start with the directions to set our students up for success. They continue out to that video, and it can be your own video.
Hey friends, have you ever wondered what keeps us floating off into space?
A YouTube video, or it can be your own video. So you have the opportunity to add many different types of media. Now we have our question. We come
Why
back
am I
to our video. Then our next question
So Isaac Newton,
will come up,
a well-known
and the
that
students
pulls
will
you
be
back
able
to
to
the
answer
earth?
that question as well. Once again, a variety of question types that you can include inside your video. So we have lots of different question types, not just a true and false or multiple choice. And then we have a great biology video here. This one on cells versus viruses with our reminders for our students. In this instance, even telling them what kind of activity this is. So it's a flipped learning lesson for you to take a look at. I like to highlight this video because in this instance, you can see after the students have watched, even though this is a video quiz, I'm able to include more than one question type at a stopping point. So you will see that in this instance,
And plant cells have
you
cell membranes.
watched 49 seconds, almost 50 seconds of the video. That's a long time for students to watch a video. So we included 2 question types here for them to take a look at to really get that synthesis of learning, especially since this was a flipped learning activity. So where we have our quiz and our video quiz for math and science. Now let's dive into some of our other widget activity types. The first is 2 examples of a whiteboard. A whiteboard we saw in the split whiteboard is that drawing activity. So our students have our directions here, and then they use this area to do their drawing with a reminder that they can choose the straight lines if they want. So if they want to just draw those straight lines or their freehand lines, as well as choose the size that they would like and the color that they would like for their drawings. So different ways that students can customize that drawing. Of course, if you have a touch screen, you can also use a touch screen instead of a mouse for those drawings. And we have a physics ramp problem here where our students are going to be asked to do some math. So we have the directions once again, draw the forces and find the coefficient, and the students would enter their work on the drawing space here on that whiteboard. Just a reminder that you will be able to duplicate all of these activities. So if you're seeing something that you really like, we will send you not only the activities, but also the recording. Here we have some directions that students will read in this whiteboard. We have our graphing paper. And here, I don't know if you noticed, but there is a star down here. When we use a star, we've inserted a sticker that our students can use. It could be more than one sticker. It doesn't have to be just one. The students can insert a sticker. Here I have to insert the sticker at the top. We can remove the sticker if we don't like it, but I think this is really great where we can rearrange and move things, use stickers if you find that that would be helpful for your students and their learning. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of more activities. Oh, in our split whiteboard. It was so good, I'm going to let you see it again. Our physics. In this instance, you're going to notice right away that the split whiteboard looks a little bit different because in this instance, we put the document on the right-hand side. So you're able to include and customize where you want that whiteboard to be, whether it's on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, as well as that whiteboard drawing activity. Why is a drawing activity a great activity to have? In this instance, a drawing activity really helps you understand if your students get how that circuit is going to work. So you would understand right away by looking at that whiteboard activity. And remember, in the students' results, you will see each student's individual whiteboard activity. So it will really give you some insight into how your students are thinking and what they're doing and how they're learning. How about flashcards? I remember this from my geometry class, having to memorize the formulas for computing all of the different types of geometric figures. So this is a great way that you can help your students study and practice flashcards. There's lots of great additions to flashcards. You can add audio to your flashcards. You can also know how long your students spent on using the flashcards. So take a look at all that you can do with flashcards. And for our science teachers, here's a little bit of trivia for Whale Shark Day. Here you can see the embedded audio.
Whale sharks are the biggest fish in the ocean.
And you can customize whether that audio is that fast, speaks that quickly or not. It doesn't always have to go that quickly. And then some information, a little bit of trivia about whale sharks. I love these gentle giants. And so taking a look at some trivia about whale sharks, really a lot of fun for our students. So there we have our whiteboard, our split whiteboard, and our flashcards. Moving along in still our test and review categories, let's take a look at the timeline and WebQuest. A lot of people say a timeline in math or science, but there's so much that you can do with a timeline. This timeline is over extended review. So we see that we have a 6-week project. And in this project, the students are going to submit examples of their work and their learning. So you can see that they took a picture here of their learning and have attached it into the timeline. And I've used this little picture camera right here so that I can insert my image. We also have the ability to move around if we wanted to, change the way that our work is here. 1, 2, well, where's number 3? We can go ahead and add number 3. So a timeline is a really great activity that you can use in your classroom as well. Don't forget that trash can. The trash can is really useful if you need to clear out a timeline or you want to redo something on the timeline. What about steps in an experiment? How many times as a science teacher have you gone over the steps in an experiment and then the students are asking you, wait, what do I need to do again? So here we have the steps in an experiment to really help guide our students along the way. And remember those design options I talked to you about? You have the different design options here with a really engaging background, some visuals to really bring those students into the activity that you're doing. Once again, we have the camera where the students can upload an example. If you've asked them to upload, you can provide information. And you can see on our timeline, we can include a lot of information on one of these cards. So you're not limited to a small area. I want you to really think about the way that you maybe have something set up and try changing it up by using a timeline. Now, a WebQuest is really a combination of activities that you would like your students to engage in. In this WebQuest, I really love it because it's all about choice. We're telling our students that you can do any kind of activity you want, but you must make sure that you get a total of 12 stars. You can choose any difficulty level you want, but you have to include it to complete at least one exercise with 3 stars. So really giving our students that sense of choice in what they're going to do. So after our students have decided what they want to do, what activity they want to do, they're going to click on the exercise and we see our tabs, 1 star, 2 stars, or 3 stars. I'm going to choose 1 star for this activity. And in my 1 star, so these are my 3 1-star activities. If I chose 2 stars, there's 3 different activities as well as for my 3 stars. I'm going to choose my 1-star activity and I can use an arithmetic widget. I can use my gamification, or I can use my test and review, my worksheet. I'm going to go ahead and choose my arithmetic widget. Notice the arrow here that tells me that I'm going to click out to go onto that widget. I'm going to do the activity, and you can see that I can ask, am I right? I need a hint. I need to skip this one. And then we have right up here in the upper left, that arrow that takes us back to our WebQuest. So I love how BookWidgets guides the students through the activity so that they are able to complete the activity, not get lost, and navigate through that WebQuest. So here we have our activities, and don't forget, in this activity, we had to do one that was 3 stars. We also have a physics WebQuest on the solar system, and this is a group activity. So we have all of our scientific terms: introduction, task, process, evaluation, and conclusion. The students are paired up into team members on this task, and then they have their process. Once again, the tabs along the left-hand side to guide them through the process, and then any widgets that are included in that WebQuest to help them with their learning, as well as that arrow that guides them back to the WebQuest so that they are able to continue with the steps. You'll notice that we've embedded links for the students here, ways to help them, right? So that they can keep going, encouragement with funny memes, puzzles and activities to do, and then, of course, their evaluation. That idea of the rubric that I showed you earlier, really helping our students think about their thinking, and then the conclusion, where they also get to rate the teacher. So we have everything included in a WebQuest. I love creating WebQuests. I spend time, I really think about the process of the thinking for my students and the steps of the project. But once you've created a WebQuest, you have it for years to come after that. Maybe just update the widgets or update some language, make sure all of your links work, and you have an activity that you can reuse from year to year. This widget, WebQuest, is stations. So with a large class, I've created 5 stations. I'm going to have 5 students at each station. and they're going to be rotating through the stations. These stations don't have to be done in any sequential order, so I can divide up my class and have those rotation stations in elementary or primary levels. A lot of teachers have rotation stations in their classrooms, so this might be something great for you to do using a WebQuest. So you can see in the WebQuest, we have a video and then an activity. So at each station, the students have a video and an activity. Here, we're taking them out to a link and then their activity. So right embedded directly into that WebQuest. We have a final one by our ambassador, Samuel Carballo. This one on evolution. And you'll notice here that it has a passcode. You can put a passcode onto your activities so that the students must enter a code in order to complete the activity. They had to solve a problem or get the code from the teacher, something in order to move on. And you'll see here we customized that arrow. Now we put the word back onto that arrow to really guide the students through that activity to help them so that they don't get lost. Guiding them with links, guiding them with images, all sorts of ways to really amp up our lessons to make it engaging for our students. Of course, we can also use a checklist or a puzzle. In a checklist, we might have the steps of an activity or a problem. Let me come back here. We might have an activity or a problem that we would like our students to work on in sequential order. And you'll notice with the checklist, once they've completed a component, they're able to check off and it becomes a little bit transparent. So guiding them through that process. If you have a lengthy set of instructions or a lot of activities, this is so helpful to keep you from repeating yourself and being exhausted by the end of the day. It's a really great activity here for our students. And then we have a solve the problem puzzle. I got a head start on my solve the problem puzzle. So I've used some images here. My apple plus my apple is 2. My banana plus my apple is 4. My strawberry plus my banana is 7. So a different way of using our critical thinking skills and gamification with some immediate feedback once the students have completed the puzzle. You could do an activity like this when they solve the puzzle, the password to the next activity. We have that WebQuest where it was using passwords. You can gamify your learning and shake things up a little bit with that. Now, spot the difference. This first spot the difference isn't really a spot the difference activity, but I wanted to highlight for you how you could take a PDF and insert it here to get your students started on an activity, helping them spot the difference on Asian and African elephants, and then move to a spot the difference activity that looks like this. So this is our spot the difference activity with 2 images, and the students must click where they think there's a difference. So we're comparing plant and animal cells here. And I want to remind you, I didn't have to go find this image. We have a Pixabay image library where you can search for images that you want to use and upload them here. So I was able to find an image that I wanted to use and bring that image into my spot the difference. And you can see here as I guess where there might be a difference, I get that positive or the X for the negative, reminding me, hey, you might need to do a little bit of work on our spot the difference. So helping our students find those differences between the plant and animal cell before they move on. We could also do that with something in science. For example, here I have my different kinds of volcanoes, and I have that pop-up text that tells me Yes, you found a difference, and here is why it is difference. So we can have that difference between our shield and our composite volcano. And remember, you can customize your feedback pop-up word. It doesn't always have to be congratulations. It can be, you're a scientific explorer. You could customize that exactly how you want it. Also remember that while we do have the crossword puzzle question inside a worksheet or a quiz, you can also have a standalone crossword puzzle. This happens to be a cross number puzzle where the students figure out the solution, and then they're going to enter it into their cross number puzzle. For me, the easiest way for students to solve the cross number puzzle is to click on our across and down boxes, and you'll notice that I can move these. Once the student clicks on the across or the down, it's highlighted in yellow for them, and they start entering their numbers. Students do not get the answer right away. Students will receive the correct or incorrect once the puzzle is complete, and you can customize how that appears for the students. Here's a little bit of a change on a crossword puzzle. In this crossword puzzle, I have included the words ahead of time. So here are the words that the students are able to use ahead of time. They can click away, and now they can enter those words on their crossword puzzle. Remember, we can totally customize where we have these. And if the students want to, you know, work together, this is something that they can work together on, or this is something that they can work on individually. So crossword puzzles, just a different look at gamifying what we do in our classroom. How about pair matching? So in pair matching, I've given my students the instructions, and they have to take a look at the pizza and match it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5/8. And I wanted to show you this because one of the options that you can use in your pair matching is to not only have the colors correct. So you see here, I have the blue box, here I have the green box, but I don't know if you've ever noticed. Once I make that match, I have the corresponding symbol. And this is so important for any of your students that may have visual acuity problems. So the ability to provide for our students this opportunity for them to see color, if they're able to see color, but if they're not able to see color, to have those dots, and you see that the dots are in different forms, to really help our students who may have some vision problems. Here we also have some math problems, and our students will need to match up what we have here. So I can also long press to see my image a little bit bigger. So if I need to see that image a little bit bigger, I can do so. Now I can match it up. And you see I have that yellow, but I also have in this lower right my 3 dots, which will help me if I need to have that additional support for vision. I really enjoy how BookWidgets is sensitive to the needs of all learners and diverse learners. So being able to include those accommodations and supports for students, I think, is really important. Here we have the periodic table, and you might think, well, this one is so easy because, lithium has lithium underneath it, and then the words. But I don't know if you remember trying to memorize the elements on the periodic table. The more you practice, the easier it gets. So just practice, practice, practice using that pair matching activity can be really helpful for your students. All right, looking at the rest of the examples, we have a before and after for geography, a hotspot image, and a random image. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at one of the before and after activities. This is an actual photo taken from Google Earth of this city before the volcano struck, and then what the city looked like after. It really helps your students, get that real life perspective and start those conversations. A hotspot image, we can do so many things in a hotspot image. This is a very creative way of looking at a hotspot image. We're going to get audio feedback if the activity is positive or negative for our students. They click on an activity and it will provide them the sounds, positive or negative, if they have that activity correct. I'll let you check out those other examples of the hotspot image, and I'd like to highlight for you the random image. In this activity, the students have to draw conclusions about the random image. And don't forget the circle with the arrows in the upper right, which allows you to get that new image. And remember, you can take images from your textbook. You can take images that you find or share via your Google Drive, but we also have that Pixabay image editor. So please make sure that you take advantage of the Pixabay image editor, which already has all of the image library for you. We took a look already at an arithmetic problem in that WebQuest, but I want to highlight the arithmetic problem again. So we ask our students to enter some information. They can then check to see if they're right. And you can see here that they have a grid that they have to fill up. So when they put in their answer, no, they get the indication that they're not right. They can try again, check to see if they're right, and they get that grid filling up. So of course, the object is to complete the grid with the secret word, which you then could use for a password on an ensuing activity. Using our specific active plot widget, so we have our instructions here on population. Our students would put in the parameters and they would be able to use that population graph and complete plotting. And then of course, a chart. We don't use charts just in math or science, but it's great to see that we can use charts to talk about different types of animals that might need food. Here, I've input the information for the duck. Let's say that we have the information on the bird and we want to compare that to our duck. We immediately can see our bar graph working to get that information in. Students can complete these charts and graphs as you ask them to complete them. So arithmetic, active plot, and chart. So now let's talk about the different question types. We've seen a lot of them in those examples. Let's talk about the different question types and specifically that sample quiz, how we're going to be able to use LaTex formulas, some general items, and chemistry. So remember this quiz, I showed it to you before. This is the activity that has the widget examples from every question type. So really make sure that you take a look at this one. I think you will find it really helpful. Notice I have my calculator up in the upper right, and we just click or dismiss to have that calculator appear or disappear. So you might use this example as some inspiration as you create some activities. The great news is with BookWidgets, you are able to enter your mathematical computations. There are websites that you can use, and I have some websites listed here for you, as well as a bonus blog post. But I also want you to think about the boom in artificial intelligence. Maybe you can use your Chat GPT or another AI program to generate those formulas for you. And then all you have to do is copy and paste them right into BookWidgets. Make sure you check out this blog post because it will really give you some great ideas on how you can spice up your lessons using that LaTeX formula for both math and science. Now we have those specific questions that really focus in our math and science classes. And the first is the numeric answer questions. The numeric answer question gives us those basic math questions with symbols. And those basic math questions with symbols are what you have seen in some of our examples. You may have seen this worksheet before, our animals worksheet. It has an example of every question type from BookWidgets as well. And at the bottom, we have included these math questions. So those basic math questions for you to take a look at. Here's that simple numeric math question and an equation question. When you use the equation question, you can customize what equations the students are allowed to use in that equation question. Here's another example of that equation question. And once again, I've included what I want my students to use. So what will I want my students to include in that equation question, as well as in this split worksheet, a guide to help them along. For our science teachers, we have the ionization of equations. And once again, our students will get that equation builder to help them work their ways along. What are they going to enter? And we've included the directions for them so that they can see exactly what they need to do. For those of you who are really interested in these questions, we do have on our YouTube channel that how-to video. So make sure you check out our YouTube channel to help you with those as well. Here is an example of balancing equations question. So I've given my students the reactants and the products and asked them, all right, take a look at this. Is this a balanced equation? So really having my students take a look at what they need to do in my chemistry class to balance those equations. And then that compound builder again that we talked about. Here is our compound builder so that my students can take a look at what they want to drop into the compound builder to see. So here we have lead hydroxide. How are they going to complete that activity? Also, we have that how-to video. So make sure that, if something's not making sense to you, take a look at that how-to video. Of course, you can always reach out to support@bookwidgets.com. In addition, we have some options inside BookWidgets. We have the calculator, which I showed you, that scratch pad, as well as we had a session on how to digitize materials, import from an existing document. So if you already have all of your work on an existing document, I don't want you to feel like you have to retype it. Remember, you will be able to just import from an existing document. So let's take a look here first. I'm going to open up my activity in my editor dashboard, and in my general tab, that's where I'll find my options. Scroll down and you'll see the scratch pad. And with the scratch pad, the default is that it's not enabled. You can say, yes, I want to enable it, but here's what's even better. You can configure the scratch pad for each question. So if you don't want your students to have a scratch paper, disable, configure for each question. And then we also have here the calculator. And once again, for the calculator, we have the simple calculator, which has those 4-function calculator, as well as the scientific calculator. And then finally, that equation editor. And here are our buttons for the equation editor, what you will include in your equation editor. Once again, totally customizable. And notice here it tells you shown if a symbol's in the group, always shown, or always hidden. So you can find those once again by going to your dashboard, general, and under general, you will be able to find your scratch pad, your calculator, and your equation editor. All waiting right there for you. Let me take a quick look back, just in case you didn't attend digitizing. Here is where you will import from a document or a PDF. So if you already have your work saved on a document, or you have publisher PDF materials, you can come right here and import from a document or a PDF. Of course, you always have that option as well to import from a widget. Here is what we just took a look at under General Equation Editor, our calculator, our scratch pad, and the import from document. Once you enable that calculator, remember I showed you, it's up here in the upper right. And the students have the option to make it appear or disappear. and our scratch pad as well, enabled by individual questions. So you're able to include that scratch pad, and you have options for your scratch pad, whether it's a graph piece of paper or a plain piece of paper. So everything totally customizable for you inside BookWidgets, as well as your import from document, which I showed you, which is really great if you're going to be using ChatGPT for your LaTex. Copy and paste from ChatGPT or copy and paste, and the formula will automatically be copied for you, saving you so much time. We talked about the importance of the reporting dashboard and evidence of our students' learning. That dashboard is really important because you also can have some options that you can use. You can add your formulas in LaTex formatting in your comments and your remarks. You can also put those annotations in the whiteboard and image questions. And don't forget, we've included lots of bonuses and tutorials here for you to take advantage of. Let's talk about some integrations. Some really common integrations that we have are GeoGebra, PhET. Remember the biology lab that I showed you? So if we want to integrate other publisher materials, we can easily do this. So we could see here in my worksheet that I have integrated a GeoGebra activity for my students to work on. And the same for the PhET simulation. I have embedded my PhET simulation in a split worksheet. So I'm not telling my students, go to BookWidgets and go somewhere else. And then my students are, where am I going? I've embedded everything into my widget. So how do I do that? From GeoGebra, here is my GeoGebra activity. I'm going to come to my share. In GeoGebra, when you share, you have to give your activity a title. I'm just going to call this my sample activity. Save. And once I have that, now I have my embed code. My embed code in GeoGebra is copied to the magical clipboard, and then you're going to come back to your BookWidgets activity and embed that. For PhET, it looks just a little bit different. To embed our PhET activity, here I am on the PhET website. Here's my activity, and I can just come down, grab the embed code, copy it to my clipboard, and I can use all sorts of questions. Any question that has a link or an embed code, rich text formatting, I put that right into my widget activity. You can do the same if you use gizmos. So as long as you have access to those materials, you can do that exact same thing for embedding different integrations into your BookWidgets activities. As we come to the end of our session, I would just like to remind you that we have lots of groups that you can join for inspiration and to find some other widgets. And I just want to highlight for you where you will find those groups. So from your widget page, you could see I love groups. I love collaborating. So you're going to scroll down to my groups. So you're going to look for those words, my groups. And then you come to this bottom section that says discover groups. If you're going to discover one group, I want to encourage you to discover the BookWidgets blog group, because once you join the BookWidgets blog group, there are so many activities available to you. Here we have our chemistry lessons, chat and GPT. We have some digital differentiation, coding lessons, economics. So tons of ready-made lessons for you. You would find the lesson that you want. Once you have the lesson that you want, you come over to your options, duplicate, and then you would duplicate that widget. Remember, sharing is caring. So in any groups that you're in, if you have any widgets that you really want to share, there's a couple ways you can share them. You can share them in our Facebook group. You can create your own group and invite people to join that group. So you can also share your activities and widgets with colleagues, with teachers from around the world. Just a couple of reminders as we finish up. As I mentioned before, you could always reach out to support@bookwidgets.com for any feedback. You can put feedback in the subject line. So if you're really wishing for something and we don't have it, make sure that you reach out to support@bookwidgets.com and let us know what you're looking for. Of course, you found our webinars. I hope you continue to attend. We have our tutorials, as I mentioned, our knowledge base, and don't forget our BookWidgets Facebook group. It's a very robust group where we're always sharing and collaborating. So if you haven't joined our Teaching with BookWidgets group, make sure you join. There's a reminder of our next Wednesday webinar. So join our BookWidgets group so that you can be a part of the collaborative activities that we have as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our blog. Lots of interesting activities that are shared in our blog as well.